When I agreed to let Fan Qiqing stay at my house, Lin Caining couldn't wait and said she wanted to come along too. But I pretended to respond seriously and said, I only love Qing. Anyone else would just be a burden on us. Is what I said right, Sunny? After I said those words, the faces of the people at the scene changed drastically. Originally she wanted to hook up with me so she could get the medicine, and then everyone could take advantage of using some of it too. It seems like they are planning to abandon us now. At this moment, Fan Yiqing's small face was flushed with excitement at the thought of being able to escape from the hellish life she's currently living. She didn't care about the others and ran for the door, but her best friend, Lin Caining, grabbed her by the hand. Fan turned around and slapped her in the face. You jerk, get lost. I'm going to pursue my own happiness. Wang Min stepped forward and slapped her 3 times. You, bitch, caused deaths and injuries, and now you want to abandon us and enjoy yourself. You have quite the nerve. The injured Zhou Peng was extremely angry to the point where his eyes were about to burst. Rain, didn't you say that you love me the most? Do you still want to have many little pen-pangs with me? Fan Yiqing gritted her teeth and stubbornly replied, is it wrong for me to pursue my own happiness? Instead of staying here and wasting resources waiting to die, it's better to hold on to Zhang Yi's thigh early on. You were a good person. You should understand me. When you love someone, shouldn't you want them to be happy? I know, you have always been sincere to me, but now that you don't have much time left, it's better to let me go and pursue a better life. Sweat was dripping down Zhou Peng's face as he sat on the ground speechless for a moment. Wang hurriedly comforted his cousin. That awful woman isn't worth your efforts. Take care of yourself. That's what matters most. At this moment, her good friend Lin Caining rushed over and said, Fan Yiqing, you can't leave me behind. She firmly pushed her down to the ground. She immediately stood in the doorway, saying, if we have to endure hardships, we'll do it together. You can't expect to enjoy a life alone. Dr. Zhou looked at the ridiculous scene with a speechless expression and helplessly said to the ladies, their wounds have been given basic first aid to stop the bleeding. Without medication, there is a high risk of infection, so be mentally prepared. Just then, the bespectacled man struggled to his feet and suggested, we have to get the medicine from Zhang Yi, or the 3 of us are doomed. I have an idea. Let's give it a try. Everyone's eyes lit up. We should try any method, rather than dragging on and waiting for death. Let's give it a shot. The man in glasses pushed up his glasses and revealed a very evil expression. Since Zhang Yi's house has such a rich food supply and he even has a fireplace, he definitely has a lot of fuel hidden somewhere, but currently, only a few of us know this information. Relying on us few remaining soldiers won't be enough to break into Zhang Yi's home. So, let's just spread this news. Let the whole building know that there are a lot of supplies at Zhang Yi's place. Can't a few of us handle it? There are thousands of people in a building, and not to mention there is a crazy dog, Chen Zhenghao, who has a gun. After breaking into his house, getting some medicine and food should be a piece of cake. Everyone present expressed their approval, except Fan Yiqing, who burst out in anger. How could you be so shameless? How could you destroy the good life that my brother Zhang Yi and I have? I'm about to move in soon. Wang Min slapped her a few times and scolded, you little vixen, all of this is because of you. How dare you make a fuss here? The top shooter, Zhou Peng, has blocked the way again. Sister, please stop. I truly love Yiqing. I believe that as long as I keep putting in effort, one day, she will be touched by my sincerity and fall in love with me. Then he leaned over and told the materialistic woman, don't worry, I've got your back. Wang Min looked at her cousin being so foolish, and she felt disappointed that he couldn't make any progress. The other people in the room were also speechless about Zhou Peng's flattery. Fan Yiqing still can't stand the flattery in her heart. She finds it kind of gross instead. At this point, Wang Min shared all the videos and photos taken by Zhang Yi previously to the homeowner group and assured everyone that they were taken recently. As soon as the news came out, the homeowners' group instantly boiled with anger, as everyone was suffering from hunger and cold, while he was living so comfortably. The neighbors are accusing me of hoarding supplies because they think I knew about the snowstorm in advance and didn't inform them. They say I'm selfish. Everyone suddenly blamed me for all their troubles and said I had to take responsibility for everything. I looked at the messages with interest, seeing how funny these people can be. There are those who play the victim, those who guilt trip, those who beg for reasoning, and even those who threaten, all aiming to get something from me in the end. I received a message from Auntie Lin, who happens to be the head of the community and the administrator of this building. She requested us to submit the supplies as soon as possible so that she can distribute them to our neighbors. I can't believe it. She was just a errand girl, and now she got promoted to become a director. The housewife Xie Li Mei is even more clear thinking, but also said that her son looks like me. Let me be her child's godfather. Really cannot. She also want to recognize me as a godfather is also okay. The wealthy second generation, Su Hao, even said he would give me his billions as long as he can move into my house. I received some private photos from a girl, but I just glanced at them quickly and wasn't really interested. As I watched the group constantly attacking my messages, I calmly replied with with 3 words. Are we even close? In my past life, I kindly opened the door to my neighbor. In the end, I was fatally struck by an axe and was dismembered before I died. Now that I have another chance at life, I'm going to have fun messing with these pitiful and despicable bugs. My neighbors don't listen to anything I say, and they are even hysterically threatening and insulting in the group chat. I put my phone aside and walked to the window, then took out a bottle of 83 Lafite from another dimension and paired it with French foie gras. It was absolutely perfect. I'm sipping red wine and dreaming of the beautiful snow scenery outside the window. It's been snowing heavily for over half a month. I've been stuck at home every day and it's getting boring. Looks like I need to find a chance to go out for a walk. I still have a snowmobile and Arctic gear in my own pocket dimension. Once most of the people in this building are dead, I can safely go out. My phone suddenly received a private message, and it turned out to be from Jo Carr. She's the recognized goddess of our community, a beautiful and talented doctor at Shanghai City Hospital with a slender and tall figure and a cold and reserved pretty face. Every time I see her in the elevator, I can't help but sneak a few more glances. I still appreciate her attitude. She didn't seek sympathy or send private photos, but calmly asked for a fair exchange with me. In this apocalyptic world, having a female doctor by my side would be a huge reassurance. How about keeping her to take care of me and my brothers? But the more charming a woman is, the more dangerous she tends to be. In her past life, she died because she gave food to Balma, which also allowed me at the time to see the brightness of human nature. But I don't have 100% confidence, and I can't let her in my house. After all, I'm also afraid of death. Thinking about this, I replied to Shou Kashin, if you want to exchange with me, you need to show some sincerity at least. Dr. Ao, who is usually aloof, remained silent for a long time before responding somewhat humbly. Can we just consider it as an advance payment for my medical fees? I'm afraid I can't hold on any longer. I can give you some food and medicine, but in the end times, it's all about fair exchange. You have to agree to a condition for me. Jo Carr immediately asked, what condition? I let out a sly laugh, and I reckon my neighbors will soon launch an attack on my house. I need you to be my informant and report their whereabouts and plans to me at any time. Now you have 2 options: betraying your neighbor to be loyal to me, or staying as you are and waiting to die. The choice is yours. The genius, beautiful doctor eventually chose to submit to me. But what's with your shy expression? Although denying your compulsory education does not support her to do such things. But unfortunately, I gave her life-saving supplies. Moreover, in her opinion, the actions of my neighbors who robbed me out of envy were not a justifiable act. I immediately said to him, well then, you'll have to exchange valuable information for the goods you want. You're a smart person, so I don't think I need to teach you this. Jo Carr understands it well and knows she must firmly correspond to me as her lifeline. I took another bored look at the group messages, and people were still relentlessly criticizing me. Some were even angrily swearing at me. I replied sarcastically, you can open the toilet. This caused an uproar in the group, but the commotion gradually died down. I didn't need to guess, I knew they had created a new group. I took a deep breath and felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. Even though I knew my home was an impenetrable fortress, facing an attack from thousands of neighbors would make anyone nervous. As expected, it proved to be true. Jo Carr immediately messaged me that the man with glasses has started a new group chat and added all the neighbors, including Chen Zhenghao. Chen Zhenghao took the initiative to speak in the group. Our common enemy now is Zhang Yi. The supplies in his house are more than all of us combined. Once we break into his house, we can get a lot of supplies, but I have to be clear. I want half of the supplies obtained from this operation. As soon as these words were spoken, all the neighbors surprisingly agreed. Chen Zhenghao and his underlings together make up only 6 people, and that seems quite reasonable to the neighbors. Everyone thought that he could have easily taken control of all the supplies with his gun, but instead he left us off. What a kind person he is. The guy with glasses also came out to rally the neighbors. We should let bygones be bygones now. The most urgent task is to defeat Zhang Yi, who has resources that belong to all of us. Joe reported everything that they did to me. Security guard Uncle Yu also felt the situation was bad and quickly sent a message telling me to run, saying they have gone crazy. I just casually replied, got it, to them, reminding them not to get involved, and told them to stay home and wait for the show. Soon after, I felt the whole building was shaking slightly, and my neighbors were rushing towards the 24th floor, as if they were infused with energy. Driven by Chen Zhenghao, everyone became even more crazy. Thousands of people were seen wielding sledgehammers, madly smashing the door of my house. I could see everything clearly on the surveillance footage, but I didn't see Chen Zhenghao and the man with glasses. It was obvious that they were keeping their distance and making the irrational neighbors act as cannon fodder. I'll be frank, as soon as the high voltage button is pressed, a huge current instantly attracts the person holding the hammer and shocks the people nearby. After a series of crackling sounds, a few people lost consciousness in the corridor, which was filled with a strong smell of barbecue. The neighbors were scared out of their wits by this scene. They turned and tried to flee, but the hallway was already blocked by Chen Junhao. Chen Junhao angrily pulled out a gun and menacingly said to his neighbor, "Go back and keep smashing for me. The corridor is the only way for neighbors to escape." Chen Junhao deliberately blocked it to make all the neighbors risk their lives. He wants the neighbors to go to their death, so that he can claim to represent justice and have a more legitimate reason to steal from me. After all, they want my neighbors to act as cannon fodder and use up my defense mechanisms. The man with glasses saw his neighbors lose an interest and quickly pushed forward, shouting, "Look at this devil inside. He actually electrocuted our lovely neighbor alive. This kind of person is a human demon. He doesn't deserve to live so comfortably in this world. We are the righteous ones, and we're determined to seek revenge for our neighbor today. Plus, there are a lot of resources waiting for us behind this door. Once we break it open, we can reclaim what rightfully belongs to our community." The neighbors have become numb and can no longer distinguish right from wrong. After being persuaded by the man with glasses, they're suddenly filled with energy and think that they might as well take the risk, even if it means risking their lives, in order to get food. Soon, someone brought a huge piece of wood, and a few people started to slam it against the door crazily. The loud bang is a bit ear-piercing. I chuckled and took a sip of wine, then turned on some music to liven up the atmosphere for everyone. The neighbors got angry when they heard the music. It was a blatant provocation. They all looked fierce and smashed even harder. It went on for 2.5 hours. My door may seem still and untouched, but in reality, there are absolutely no issues with it. A tree stump weighing thousands of pounds was vigorously struck by a dancing man, but the door only seemed to have some scratches on it, without any dents. The neighbors are all feeling discouraged. Everyone is exhausted and wondering who has a door like this in their house and why it's so sturdy. At this rate, it will take at least 2.5 years to break it down. A bank employee noticed something and walked over, looking surprised, and told everyone that this door is the same as the one in our bank's vault. It's a high-security door that even if you hit it with wood or explosives, it won't open. The only way to open it is with a key, and even the world's top lock experts would have little chance of succeeding. I have loaded the crossbow and arrived at the door, ready to shoot at the employee, who is still chatting and analyzing. I didn't hesitate. I shot him straight through the neck with an arrow. The neighbors were scared again when they saw this, and turned around to run away quickly because he had a weapon in his hand. The crowded hallway suddenly became chaotic. At this point, I couldn't be bothered to aim carefully anymore. I just loaded the crossbow and shot indiscriminately at the firing holes. In a blink of an eye, I took out more than 10 opponents, leaving the entire hallway in a mess. The neighbors are cursing you as a shameless scoundrel and a devil who kills people. I was listening to the DJ and completely ignoring them. The man with glasses shouted again, "Everyone, don't panic." He pushed up his glasses and chuckled. "I figured it out. Since we can't break through the door, let's just smash the wall. After all, the wall is made of bricks and cement. It should break eventually." Right. For a moment, the bespectacled man was deeply impressed by his own intelligence. Upon hearing this, all the neighbors acted as if they had discovered a new continent, grabbing hammers and wildly smashing things. The guy with glasses has already started celebrating early. "Zhang Yi, you scumbag, get ready to die." I can see everything they do on the surveillance cameras, so when I saw my neighbor suddenly become excited and joyful, I remained completely calm and unaffected. I can't shake the feeling that even if my neighbors find a flaw and break into my building, it's still my own fate, my own damnation. Soon, a tall and strong man achieved results. The wall directly cracked open, but when he used all his strength to strike the second hammer, there was a loud clang. The huge hammer flew out of his hand, and blood gushed from his palm. The man with glasses leaned in for a closer look, and was shocked to see that the wall was also made of steel, almost identical to a security door in material. The neighbors are still not giving up, wielding various tools to smash other areas, including the corners, baseboards, and all the walls. They tried to find weaknesses in the wall, but all they found was a wall of steel in the end. I'm inside drinking Lafite and listening to music, but the loud noise is really annoying me. I mean, if I can think of the problem, should a professional security company think of it too? My iron box is fully wrapped at 360 degrees. Even if you bring the Italian cannon, it's probably not enough to break it. I'm not afraid of the old and useless pieces of metal you have in your hands. Then I immediately turned on the whole house noise reduction system, turned up the volume, and continued to listen to the elegant classical music. The bespectacled man was furious, gritting his teeth. He had the house prepared like this for one reason. He knew about the snowstorm in advance and built the house this way to protect us. As soon as these words were spoken, the neighbors all started berating me, calling me a selfish scumbag. Why didn't you warn everyone? Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? You've doomed all the neighbors to death. Don't you feel any guilt? Some neighbors have already lost their minds, kneeling on the ground, clenching their fists and crying in pain. You will definitely pay the price for what you have done today. At this moment, only Chen Junhao, the old hand in this field, remains unusually calm. His loud scolding has made everyone alert. Those who were wailing and causing a scene stopped in their tracks. Believe me, I'll take care of him, he said sternly. Even if their walls are made of steel plates, isn't there still a ceiling and floor? Pick up the tools and keep smashing for me. I don't believe that little punk can really make an iron box. I am watching the surveillance inside the house and thinking to myself, Chen Jianhao is quite bold, but I am not a fool either. Neighbors made noise for 2.5 hours, trying everything they could. In the end, it just led to deeper despair for them. In the end, they despairingly realized that my home really was like an airtight iron box. His glasses are broken, and he knows that if he doesn't get medicine for his injured arm, he probably won't survive for more than 3 days. Right now, he can even smell the stench coming from his own arm. He roared helplessly at the sky, saying, my fate is determined by myself, not by the heavens. I refuse to believe that this house has no flaws. Why doesn't this terrible Jean broaden his horizons a bit and sacrifice himself to help us lovely neighbors? His mentality has already reached the edge of insanity. All the neighbors looked at each other in despair, and they all had a terrifying thought in their minds. The neighbors, who were just electrocuted, seemed quite tasty, especially if seasoned with spices. The neighbors dared not to think about it anymore. In the end, their rationality overcame their hunger, but they knew deep down that if it came to a desperate situation, this option might become inevitable. Just as everyone was at a loss, the young couple who lived next door to me stepped out and suggested, can we consider entering through the balcony and breaking the window? My balcony overlooks their apartment. Their balcony is a huge floor-to-ceiling window. The glass should be easy to break. The neighbor seemed to have caught a lifesaver again. They quickly put up a wooden board from the neighbor's house and came to my balcony with various tools in hand. I am sipping freshly brewed coffee and calmly watching this scene. I was thinking, if this was a zombie apocalypse, we probably wouldn't be in much better shape than this group of people. The neighbors are smashing things and shouting, calling me a selfish and greedy demon. They're saying if I open the window now, they'll spare my life. I slowly stood up from the couch as I saw what happened. Who told you that glass can be broken to enter? This glass was custom made with bulletproof glass that cost me a fortune. The official cars of Western country leaders are made of this material, but they're only 1/3 as thick as the one in my house. This level is not only bulletproof, but also capable of withstanding artillery shells. Open your eyes wide and see clearly. This is made in the Dragon Country. I calmly walked to the kitchen, picked up the empty Lafite bottle from last night, filled it with gasoline, and made an improvised Molotov cocktail to warm up my freezing neighbors. The next moment, a hatch appeared above the balcony, and a Molotov cocktail came flying down. By the time the neighbors witnessed the scene, it was already too late. With a crack, the Molotov cocktail shattered, spilling gasoline everywhere. The balcony, in -70 degrees, was suddenly engulfed in flames. The small balcony was completely consumed by the fire, turning it into a scene of ice and fire. Someone even jumped off the balcony directly. I watched this beautiful scene with a playful look on my face. At that moment, a middle-aged man suddenly threw himself against the glass, looking at me with a terrifying and desperate expression. Help me, please, help me. You were the one yelling the loudest just now. Ha! I gave them a mocking look and then lit another Molotov cocktail. Save you. Nah, you can go die, you trash. The remaining neighbors wanted to return the same way, but they were blocked by the man with glasses standing in front of them. You're already dead. Even putting out the fire will still get you infected and die. Don't come here and drag us down. Some people only set fire to the clothes. The injuries were not serious, but the man with glasses still waved a hammer to stop them, causing the neighbors behind to be burnt, to jump off the high-rise building in pain. Several neighbors who stayed on my balcony were burned alive into charcoal. In the end, the burning neighbor in the corridor unexpectedly brought a hint of long-lost warmth to the remaining neighbors. The neighbors reached out to warm themselves by the fire, with a smile on their faces that they were afraid others might notice. Coercion and temptation no longer worked, so let's try appealing to the enemy's mercy. Immediately, they dropped their weapons and crawled back to the French windows of my house. They fell to their knees with a thump and begged like dogs, weeping and pleading, "Please, Zhang Yi, I don't want to die." Soon after, many people followed one after another. Some kept bowing, some kept slapping themselves in the face. Pleading voices continued non-stop. Some even bowed until their heads were covered in blood. The scene was so heart-wrenching that bystanders couldn't help but shed tears. I looked at my neighbors with sympathy. "Please don't be like this," I said. "It actually hurts me to see this, but when I feel upset, I just want to eat." So I grabbed the freshly cooked instant noodles and ate them loudly. At this moment, that sound seems like music to the neighbors. I immediately put down the half-eaten bowl of noodles. "Now I'll give you all a chance if you can do it. I can provide this flavor of instant noodles for free for a week. Please bring me Chen Jianghao's head." Upon hearing this, the neighbors were shocked. Chen Jianghao has a gun and several underlings guarding him. It's quite difficult to take his head, but compared to dealing with me, it's obviously easier to deal with Chen Jianghao. The neighbors immediately stared blankly at Chen Jianghao as if they were looking at a piece of juicy meat. Chen Jianghao watched his neighbor suddenly standing up and said, "Why did you stop? Keep complaining." He didn't hear what I said to my neighbors. Suddenly, Chen Jianghao felt a prickling sensation on his back, and he turned around to find his neighbor's gaze to be exceptionally eerie and peculiar. He quickly retreated to the corner of the wall, and Chen Jianghao's gun was already loaded. The neighbors also dared not act rashly. Chen Jianghao just found out that it was the damn Zhang Yi who posted a message in the homeowners group offering a reward to get rid of him. Seeing the neighbors looking like zombies, Chen Jianghao, filled with fear, quickly evacuated the scene. The next day, Chen Jianghao ordered two underlings to shovel snow and fetch water. He held a gun and kept urging his underlings. The old guy knew he could ambush his neighbors while fetching water before, so the starving neighbors might target him for a reward. He had to move fast. Just then, the long-awaited neighbor rushed out with a kitchen knife. Chen Jianghao's underling noticed the commotion behind them. He suddenly turned around and found two hungry-eyed neighbors holding kitchen knives close at hand. "Bro, watch out behind you." Right after that, two gunshots shattered the peace in the neighborhood. Two neighbors fell in a pool of blood. Clearly their plan to assassinate Chen Jianghao failed. Chen Jianghao gripped the gun tightly, panting heavily, actually daring to make a move on me. "I see that you are tired of living." He then ordered his men to send the two men's miserable state to the homeowner group. "That's the consequence of attacking me." The man with a middle part in his hair suddenly yelled, "Bro, you've been stabbed in the back." Chen Jianghao has a half-meter-long knife wound on his back. He was probably too excited just now, causing an adrenaline rush, so he didn't feel the pain. After his subordinates reminded him, big drops of sweat rolled down his forehead, and he immediately screamed in pain. "These two cowardly dogs actually ambushed me." He quickly dialed Zhou Care's phone number. 5 minutes later, Dr. Zhou arrived at Chen Jianhao's house, carrying a medical kit. Faced with this vicious demon, she had no choice but to do whatever it took to survive. But Dr. Zhou also mentioned that her treatment is not free. Before, in exchange for treating his arrow wound, she was able to get a pack of biscuits. The bald man then brought out a large bowl of meat soup and said, "Doctor, Ayo, would you like to have a bowl of meat soup?" As a doctor, Zhou Caron immediately recognized what it was at a glance. She forced herself to not vomit and said coldly, "It's okay, I don't need it. Even if I starve to death outside, I won't touch anything of yours." Chen Jianghao also knows how important it is to have a doctor by your side. In this apocalyptic situation, he stood up and looked at Zhou Car affectionately. "You can't die. If someone has to sacrifice one day, you'll be the last one." Chen Jianghao has long wanted to test drive this sports car. If she didn't have any more value to him, he would have made his move already. The wound has been treated, and Zhou Caron slapped away Chen Jianghao's big hand and prepared to leave. However, one of the henchmen blocked her way. Chen Jianghao said, "You can't leave until my wound heals." He's feeling a bit panicked right now, with many neighbors watching him closely. How can he feel at ease without a doctor by his side? Zhou Car had no choice but to crouch in the corner. Hao is holding his gun for 24 hours and discussing the next plan with his underlings. Currently, the situation is very unfavorable for them, and my house is like a turtle shell that cannot be penetrated. In the end, they unanimously decided to move next door to my house and wait for an opportunity to act. Also, living in a high-rise building is safer. She'd overheard their entire plan and messaged me from the bathroom, pretending to go there. Listening to their plan, I smiled coldly. "Want me to go out? Let's see how I can compete with your patience." Soon, Chen Jianghao arrived at the young couple's home with supplies. The couple, understanding the situation, voluntarily gave up their house, but secretly kept the remaining food on themselves. Shortly after, they trembled as they tried to leave, but before they could take a few steps, two muffled bangs were heard. The couple fell to the ground without a sound, followed by 3 more hits from the thugs. Zhou Caron, standing by, was completely scared. Although she is a doctor, it was the first time she witnessed a murder with her own eyes. On the other hand, Chen Jianghao looked quite pleased. How could the meat that's so close to the mouth just slip away like that? At this moment, Chen Jianghao, who has been killing people without mercy, has completely lost his reverence for life. He coldly told Zhou Car, "In this critical time, I must use harsher methods to make the neighbors fear me, or more of them will come with knives to attack me." In the next few days, there will always be tinkling sounds coming from my room, and I know it's some persistent fucks trying to find a loophole. They're keeping an eye on my house 24/7, thinking I will always come out to get water or throw out garbage. I'm watching the surveillance footage, and it seems like Chen Zhenghao is planning something again. Now he has only a few bullets left, and there is not much food left either. Under the bounty I put up, Chen Zhenghao is facing troubles from within and without. He even sleeps with a gun in hand. He's planning to intimidate his neighbors into joining his team. This way, he can avoid getting killed by his neighbors for the bounty and also expand his team. I smirked. Isn't this like drinking poison to cure poison? In the end times, everyone has their own agenda, and with more people, we'll need more food and medicine. It definitely won't last long. I immediately called Zhou Kar and asked what Chen Zhenghao was up to. Zhou Kar hurriedly said that Chen Zhenghao and his group have gone crazy. They have run out of supplies and are now inciting young adults in the neighborhood to loot and plunder from vulnerable groups. Not only did they steal supplies, but they also killed people. Then, Shokar choked up and couldn't speak. He said he hasn't had any water for 2 days and feels like he's going to die. Can you come and help me? I pondered for a long time upon hearing this. I thought to myself, the once icy and proud female doctor is now humbly asking for my help. She never seems to have had high expectations of me. After all, everyone is struggling to look after themselves nowadays. In the end, I decided I had to protect this woman. A top surgeon from a premier hospital is rare, but she also needs to prove her loyalty. I immediately assigned 2 tasks to Zhou Kar. One to act fast and accurately, and also to serve a tough challenge to Chen Zhenghao as a side task. If I pass his test, I can ensure she won't die. Meanwhile, after the neighbors failed to attack my house, their hope of getting antibiotics was also dashed. At this moment, the wounds of the 3 people shot by arrows start to itch terribly. When the bandages are removed, the wounds are found to be festering, even emitting a nauseating stench. The bespectacled guy screamed in despair, "I don't want to die. I'm still a virgin." This scene instantly broke through Zhou Pan's defense. Who the hell is He hoped that his older cousin could come visit him again, but now one man is running low on supplies and can barely take care of himself. So he can only wish the best for this younger cousin. Desperate, Zhou Pan has gone crazy. He ran to my doorstep and knocked frantically. "Zhang Yi, you coward, come out and fight me if you dare." I burst out laughing when I heard that. "You can't even speak coherently, and you're trying to trick me into opening the door with some kind of provocation." Immediately, I walked up to the door and coldly responded, "Does it feel good to spread this infection? Nah, your festering wound is a breeding ground for tetanus bacteria. Bacteria are constantly eating away at your flesh, eventually spreading throughout your body via your bloodstream, leading to your slow and agonizing death." The vivid description made Zhou Pan feel like he was covered in germs from head to toe. Exhausted from knocking on doors, he slumped to the ground and gently leaned against the door and said, "You're gonna die anyway. Even if I give you medicine now, it won't help. You might as well use your last breath to fulfill your unfinished wishes." Despair filled Zhou Pan's eyes as he muttered to himself, "Yes, my wish is to marry Fan Yiqing. I must have her before I die." Desperate, Zhou Pan supported himself back to his cousin's house. Then he went straight to Fan Yiqing's room. With bloodshot eyes, he stared at her intently, which startled Fan Yiqing. She asked, "Zhou Pan, what do you want?" Upon hearing this, Zhou Pan, still lacking in resilience, fell to his knees with a thud, took Fan Yiqing's hand, and earnestly asked, "Yiqing, will you marry me?" Fan Yiqing instinctively pinched her nose and quickly responded with a disgusted look, "I don't want to. You stinky thing. Go away." Meanwhile, she slapped Zhou Pan in the face and exclaimed, "I am Zhang Yi's woman. Who do you think you are? Just a flatterer. You are not even a spare tire to me. At best, you are just an air pump." Upon hearing this, Zhou Pan cried bitterly. He had put so much effort into supporting Fan Yiqing, even risking his own life for her. But throughout it all, she never showed even the slightest bit of affection towards him. Zhou Pan couldn't believe this was true. He was shaking Fan Yiqing's neck and saying repeatedly, "Say you love me." But what followed was yet another slap from Fan Yiqing. "You're a dying person reeking of filth. How can you claim to love me? What makes you think you can compare to my Zhang Yi in any way?" At this moment, Chen Zhenghao's underling is cooking soup in the kitchen. Suddenly, Zhou Kar stands up and offers to help him. Chen Zhenghao laughed coldly and said, "It seems that our doctor, Zhou, has finally come to his senses. It's all about staying alive and not losing face." Zhou Kar went to the kitchen. An underling instructed her to chop wood and start a fire. Zhou Kar obediently follows the instructions. Nowadays, due to the shortage of energy, cooking can only be done by burning furniture. The underling reminded her not to let the fire die out and then turned to the side to rest. It seems they don't have much guard against Zhou. She then took out a small bottle from her pocket and poured half a pound of sleeping pills directly into the soup. She stirred it vigorously to cover up the smell, luckily without arousing any suspicion from Chen Zhenghao and the others. Everyone eagerly started drinking the soup in order to gain their trust. Zhou Kar also turned into a bowl of soup. Chen Zhenghao drank his soup loudly and said coldly, "I never thought that our beautiful doctor would also have to compromise for a living one day. Jo Karen quietly returned to the room, thinking to herself that with this half kilogram of sleeping pills, even an elephant would sleep for half a year. As a professional doctor, Jo Karen is well aware that such a large dosage is no joke, and sure enough, Chen Zhenghao and his group soon felt drowsy. Not long after, Jo Karen cautiously opened the door and saw that they were all sound asleep in their original positions. Soon, Jo Karen messaged me saying they were knocked out by the high dosage of sleeping pills I gave them. What should I do next? I thought for a long time, and sure enough, she decided to be my pawn. I asked Jo Karen to drag all of them to the balcony, and then I put on my warm clothes and walked out onto the balcony. This is the latest high-tech cold-resistant clothing of 2050. Even if you wear it to the Arctic to catch penguins, it will be no problem. Jo Karen was shivering and hugging her arms, looking at me. Are you trying to freeze them to death here? With a cold look, I told Jo Karen, I won't do it myself. I'm assigning this task to you. At the same time, I threw the ropes in my hand over to her and instructed her to tie them all up with the ropes. Also, I asked her to find Chen Zhenhao's backup gun and give it to me. Jo Karen's expression was full of disdain. I was hungry for 2.5 days and even dragged a few big men to the balcony. Was it really necessary for you to be so careful? Couldn't you have come over to help? I aimed my gun at the villain lying on the ground. The barrel also pointed coldly at Jo Karen. I won't take any risks. Being cautious is crucial. Jo Karen could only obediently follow the instructions. As expected, Chen Zhenghao's backup gun was on his waist. Immediately, she followed my instructions and removed the magazine from the handgun. Jo Karen was a bit worried that I wouldn't own up, but realizing there was no turning back, she understood that she had to trust me unconditionally. She then handed the gun over to me. It is indeed the same as the footage. Chen Zhenghao's gun was correctly identified. I immediately teleported it to another dimension, then went back to the room and grabbed a water hose, spraying it at the opposite balcony at full force. Jo Karen couldn't help but sigh as she watched the scene unfold. Using cold water to freeze them to death is a very cruel method, but it is indeed a safe and effective approach. At this moment, Chen Zhenghao was awakened by the cold ice water. He was stunned and suddenly realized that he had been drugged. He was so frightened that he screamed in horror, and all the underlings woke up in the sound of his screams. He then turned around and saw me on the balcony across from him. It's really you, Zhang Yi. I will tear you apart into 1,000 pieces. I coldly said, you should worry about yourselves. Under the cold and random pounding of the icy rain, their whole bodies were soon soaked. In this extreme cold, they turned into ice sculptures in just a minute. To save precious water resources, I decided to stop watering the plants. I think they are already freezing to death. Pouring water on them would just be a waste. I just called Jo Karen. You passed the test. Get ready to come to my place. Upon hearing this, Jo Karen's suspended heart finally dropped. She instantly collapsed to the ground with a thud and responded in a trembling voice, I'll be right there. I opened the 10 heavy door locks, took a few steps back, and aimed my gun at the door. Then, I checked the surveillance at the door to confirm Jo Karen was not behaving oddly. Finally, I unlocked the last electronic door lock with my phone. You can come in now. Jo Karen used all her strength to squeeze through a gap that was just big enough for her to pass, and suddenly, a warm current rushed over her, enveloping her. This long-lost warmth felt like heaven to her. She collapsed onto the ground, fully experiencing this intoxicating feeling, as if suddenly immersed in a hot spring.